What if I told you there are psychological tricks that can make anybody more persuasive, leading to fatter pipelines and more closed deals? In today's video, not only am I sharing with you guys 4 dark psychological sales techniques top sellers are using to sell anything to anyone ethically, but throughout the video, for each trick, I'm gonna share 1 to 2 examples. That way, you know exactly when to use it during your sales conversations, whether it's prospecting, cold calling, sending cold emails, or in sales conversations, discovery, demo, to crush your quota in 2025. Thanks for watching, guys. Let's get into it. How do you feel when you have an unfinished task? I don't know about you guys, but I can have a day where I have 10 tasks to complete. I complete 8. I have 2 unfinished tasks. At the end of the day, I have an easier job remembering those 2 unfinished tasks than the 8 I completed. This is the psychological phenomenon called the Zeigarnik effect. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly, where unfinished tasks or incomplete thoughts create mental tension that people feel compelled to resolve. You can create this type of tension with the prospect during a sales conversation to pull needed information out of them rather than push, which is what most salespeople do. This first trick, it will sound and feel a bit unnatural at first, but trust me guys, coming from a guy who has used this technique religiously every single day during my sales conversations, it is the most effective yet simple technique in this video. Mirroring is the technique of repeating the last 2 to 3 words a prospect just said to elicit more information out of them. I use mirroring in 2 different spots during my sales conversations. The other day I was on a sales discovery call with a prospect and I asked the prospect, hey, can you walk me through what are you looking for in a solution? They came back and they said, hey Matt, we're looking for something that's easy to implement. That can mean a whole lot of different things to a whole lot of different people. That's a surface level answer. We were looking for something that's easy to implement. Easy to implement? And that's how I delivered it, with a bit of an uptone, indicating to the prospect that yes, this is a question. I need more information out of you. That mirror created mental tension on the prospect side. They wanted to fill the gap and expand on their answer. On that same call, towards the end of the conversation, I presented and shared with the prospect the pricing for the project. The prospect came back with the objection, yeah, Matt, that's a little bit more than we were expecting. More than you were expecting? That mirror elicited that they were comparing my price to that of a few competitors. And that's the real objection there, because this is a little bit more than we were expecting. That doesn't give me a whole lot to work with. Now I know what I'm up against. I can handle it to hopefully move the conversation forward. This is by far the best way to handle objections without sounding defensive during a sales conversation. Mirrors help build rapport, build connections, and again, guys, create tension, much needed tension in a sales conversation to get more information out of the prospect. Again, pulling rather than pushing. What if I told you that by getting something wrong during a sales conversation with a prospect can actually get them to open up and share their real thoughts, feelings, and objections without them even realizing it? And the thing you got wrong, guys, was actually intentional. This technique builds off the psychological principle of the correction reflex, where people have an innate desire to correct statements they perceive as inaccurate, especially when it comes to their own thoughts and feelings, especially when a prospect hears something wrong out of a salesperson. When used right and sparingly, key word here, mislabeling is a Jedi mind trick during a sales conversation with a prospect. Mislabeling starts with the phrases, it sounds like, it seems like, it looks like. And remember guys, you want to be wrong. You want the prospect to come back and correct you. There are 2 really good spots to use mislabels during sales conversations. A lot of times, prospects are vague about their priorities and goals. If your product isn't tied to a top priority, it's a waste of your time. Use a mislabel to find that out. Chris, it seems like solving XYZ, like I'm getting the sense that this isn't a priority right now and implementing ABC by the end of the year. You're not in a huge rush here. No, Matt, we are in a huge rush. This is a top priority. We need this challenge solved right now. It sounds like staying within budget is your top priority here. I mean, yeah, Matt, staying within budget obviously is important to us, but it's not our top priority. Our top priority is getting the right solution in place that can scale as we grow. And you guessed it, guys, the second time to use a mislabel during a sales conversation with a prospect is to uncover the real objection. An objection you think they have that they're not sharing with you. Chris, it seems like you're worried this is going to take too long to get up and running and get implemented. No, man, it's not the timeline and the implementation. Our biggest concern here is making sure the bigger part of the team, the rest of the team, adopts this and actually uses it if we invest in it. Start looking, guys, for strategic opportunities during your sales conversations to, again, intentionally get something wrong to uncover real objections out of the prospect. How can getting your prospect to say no move you closer to a yes? It sounds counterintuitive, but stick with me. Since the beginning of time, caveman time, saying no has historically been a way to protect ourselves from risks and dangers. By saying no, a sense of protection is activated in the part of the brain responsible for detecting threats. During a sales conversation, I don't care what it is, it could be a cold call, sales discovery, demo, a closing call. The prospect is expecting the salesperson, you and me, to push and pressure for a yes, which leads to automatic resistance on their side. But if instead you go for a no, it disrupts this pattern, grabs their attention in a non-threatening way, and it gives them, the prospect, a sense of control. You're on a cold call, you make the ask to meet. Chris, can you meet next Tuesday at 3 p.m. or Wednesday at 4 p.m. to talk about this in a bit more detail? That question is looking to elicit a yes out of the prospect. There's a sense of commitment there on the prospect side. What if instead you change that question and asked, hey Chris, would it be a ridiculous idea to explore this in a bit more detail, but I'm not cold calling you completely out of the blue? That question is going for a no, eliminating the sense of commitment. Here are my favorite phrases for no-oriented questions. Would you be opposed? Would it be a bad, ridiculous, crazy idea? Would it be unreasonable? You mind if? Is it crazy too? Am I out of line to think? By allowing the prospect to say no, you're actually leading them closer to agreement without them feeling manipulated. What if the secret to closing bigger deals started with getting your prospects to agree to something small? This is the premise behind the foot in the door technique. Once people commit to a small action, they feel psychologically compelled to act consistently with that initial commitment. 99.99% of cold emails end the same way, with a specific call to action. Can you meet next Tuesday at 3 p.m.? Time is finite. That ask is high risk, high effort on the prospect's part. You're probably not gonna get a response if you use a specific CTA in your cold emails. But what if instead at the end of your cold email, you ended it by asking this? Open to a 2-minute video walking through how we can protect against phishing attacks on your mobile devices. Now that's an easy ask because it demands no time or effort on the prospect's part. In this scenario, you just place the prospect in a yes mindset, making it easier to get the yes when you go to ask to meet with them a couple days later. This is also why in tech, customers who agree to a free trial are 3 times more likely to purchase your product. They're invested. They're spending a lot of time. Now, as that investment goes up during a free trial, a pilot, a proof of concept, whatever you call it at your company, the likelihood of them buying also increases. So I would encourage you guys. I've ran so many free trials. On my free trials, typically at the end, there's on a 40 to 50% close rate compared to maybe a 30% close rate if it does not involve a free trial. Use them to your advantage. Now, earlier in the video, I talked about how to use no-oriented questions during your cold calls to close out those conversations the right way to book more meetings. But you might be thinking, well, how do I even get to the point where I'm getting the prospect to open up, have some dialogue where I can actually ask to meet with them? If you're in that camp, check out this video right here. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it.